The senator from Texas.
And I'm pleased and saddened to stand here in support of my colleagues as we stand united in support of the nation of Israel. In the last several weeks, over 2,500 rockets have rained down on the nation of Israel. 80% of the population has had to flee what they're doing and run to bomb shelters to hide. Moms, dads, children. When the alarm goes off, they have sometimes 10, 15 seconds to get to a bomb shelter. Mr. President, I want you to imagine if the same thing were happening here in America. Imagine if 80% of this country in the last several weeks had run to a bomb shelter. Imagine if 240 million Americans in the last several weeks had been sitting at work or in the doctor's office or having breakfast and had to grab their children and run in a panic towards a bomb shelter. Imagine what our country would be doing in response. Mr. President, in recent weeks, we have discovered that Hamas has opened up a new chapter in the annals of terrorism. It's not just raining rockets down from on high, but it's now attacking from below. Some 32 full-scale terror tunnels have been discovered, dug under the ground, under the border, and coming up in kibbutzes inside Israel along Gaza. Some of the tunnels come up inside kindergartens. And we've discovered in recent weeks a terrifying plot that was underway for Hamas terrorists on Rosh Hashanah to come through those tunnels, hundreds of them, to emerge in kindergartens to kidnap or murder vast numbers of young Jewish children. Mr. President, imagine right now if enemies of this country had dug tunnels into this country that were coming up in our schools. Imagine if Iran or China or some other hostile foreign nation had tunnels where your children and my children were at risks of being kidnapped or murdered. And right now today, in Gaza, we see massive civilian casualties that are the direct consequence of the violence of Hamas. You see, Mr. President, these human casualties are not an unintended side effect of the conflict. They are the objective that Hamas seeks. Dead Palestinian children and women and men. We know this because Hamas is engaging in a war crime right now. Not that the United Nations Human Rights Council would ever say anything about it. But Hamas is engaging in a war crime of using human shields, deliberately using human shields. Where do they place their rockets that they are raining down death and destruction upon Israel with? They place them in schools. They place them in private homes. They place them in mosques. Deliberately, they surround their rockets and their terror tunnels with innocent civilians. Israel right now is engaged in something unprecedented in the annals of modern warfare. It is undertaking more humanitarian effort to spare civilian death than any military has in recorded history. Before attacking, Israel sends out texts when they discover a rocket battery that they need to take out because it is firing rockets targeting innocent civilians. They send texts saying, clear out of the area. They try to save the Palestinian civilians. They drop from the sky pamphlets on an area that is about to be bombed to take out the rockets that are coming from that area. And the pamphlets say to the civilians, get out. Get out because we're going to take out the rockets and you're in harm's way. Not only that, they have a practice of sending an initial knock bomb. What does that mean? It means the first bomb lands on the roof and makes a knock. Doesn't explode, just makes a loud knock. Now, they do that for a reason, so that the people inside the building can look up, can hear the knock, and can flee the building, so that the second missile can take down the building and the rockets that are housed inside that are being used to try to murder innocent civilians. Prime Minister Netanyahu, a few weeks ago, summed it up very powerfully when he said, Israel uses missile defense to defend our citizens. Hamas uses its citizens to defend its missiles. Now, Israel's trying to warn Palestinian civilians, don't be located where the missiles are, because we're going to respond as any sovereign nation will to protect our citizens. What does Hamas say? Hamas tells the Palestinians, stay there. Mr. President, picture that for a second. Israel is warning civilians, clear the area because we're going to take out the rockets. We're going to take out the tunnels. And the response from Hamas is no, stay there. Why? Because what they want to see is Palestinian children, Palestinian women killed so they can put the pictures on the Sunday night news. Because they know the world, many at the United Nations, many in the media will behave like useful idiots. Will point to the civilian casualties that are Hamas's fault. When you put children on top of rockets, when you tell the children do not leave, when you know the rockets are going to be taken out, it is Hamas, the terrorists, who are responsible for those children's death. But yet the international community puts the pictures on the evening news and blames the nation of Israel. I'm proud this week to have joined my colleague, Senator Gillibrand from New York, in filing bipartisan resolution in this body condemning Hamas's use of human shields, condemning it as a war crime, condemning it as an outrage, condemning it as the direct reason that we're seeing so many civilian deaths. And I have to note that one of the reasons civilian deaths have been mitigated in Israel is because of the incredible success of the Iron Dome missile defense system. Ronald Reagan's Star Wars is today's Iron Dome. We see unfolding in recent weeks in Israel the product of President Reagan's vision when he proposed the Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI, on March 23rd, 1983. Now, critics at the time dismissed it as Star Wars. You and I will recall we were both teenagers at the time. You'll recall learned experts, so to speak, going on television saying FDI was a fool's errand, was a dream. The analogy that was given, you cannot hit a bullet with a bullet. It can't work. Well, run the clock forward 3 decades and we see an Iron Dome, the strategic vision of President Reagan playing out in real time. You know, there's a wonderful video on YouTube that I would encourage anyone who's interested to Google and watch. It is a video called Iron Dome Wedding. If you Google it, you will discover a video from a wedding in southern Israel. And it's, an ordinary wedding video, just like I suspect you and I both have from our weddings. But in the midst of it, rockets begin coming through the sky, the night sky, and you see rockets come across the sky, and then you see Iron Dome interceptors come up and explode the rockets. And one after the other is fired and explodes. And the whole thing looks like fireworks. And in the background, you hear the wedding music and the celebrations and sounds of celebration. And you think, were it not for these interceptors, these Iron Dome interceptors, those missiles might be landing on that wedding and causing carnage and death and destruction. But because of the potential, the power, the actuality of missile defense, instead, they're intercepted. Now, there are indisputable differences between the intercontinental ballistic missiles that SDI was designed to target and the low-tech missiles that Hamas is firing over Israel that Iron Dome is intercepting. And that's why Iron Dome is one part of a three-tiered system that includes David's Sling and the Arrow 2 and 3 systems, which are designed to guard against more sophisticated weapons, such as the longer-range missiles that are being provided to Hamas by Syria and Iran. And they would also defend against nuclear ballistic missiles of the sort being developed in Iran. And it's worth underscoring, even as the fighting in Gaza grabs the headlines, we have to keep our eye on the far more serious danger of a nuclear Iran. The threat of a nuclear-armed Iran would make Hamas and their rockets seem like child's play. And our support for Iron Dome should be understood in the context of support for the continued development of these systems, which not only protect our friend and ally Israel, but they protect us. There is a reason why Hamas and Iran refer to Israel as the little Satan and the United States as the great Satan, because their intention with both is the same terror, the same murder, the same death and destruction. Israel is currently working to carry out the grinding work to eradicate these terror tunnels that have been built under schools and kindergartens designed to kidnap and murder young children. And I would note it's an enormously difficult task, one that might prove impossible were it not for the success of Iron Dome limiting the effectiveness of those rockets. And so I would encourage this body to stand together, united as one. Republicans and Democrats, there may be issues on which we disagree. There may be a great many issues. But we ought to be able to stand together in one and speak in unison that we support the nation of Israel and that we will work with the nation of Israel immediately to replenish their Iron Dome supply so that they can protect the citizens there and they can do what is necessary to eradicate the Hamas rockets and terror tunnels that are being used to commit war crimes. That should be a unified bipartisan voice in this body. It is my hope by the end of this week that's exactly what it will be. I yield the floor.